So hello, I'm Stefan. So I'm working in Amadeus in solution management for airlines, and I'm responsible for NDC and order management. So I want to thank you for the invitation. I think new partnership is very important for Amadeus and Navitaire. So we believe it's a topic where a lot of enhancement can bring values, and it's the right time to do it. So today I will co-present with my colleague John Coates, who is project director at Navitaire. So as a short introduction, I'd like to recap a few things. So we often refer as new partnership as the future of Interline and codeshare, but actually we believe it's much more than that. It's a key element in a broader retail transformation. So I will not spend time to explain the detail of retail transformation, but when it relates to new partnership, it means being able to do things with more simplicity, to have processes which are far less airline-centric and inspire from the retail standards that we see in other industries. It's always as well about delivering a superior experience, so seamless experience, multi-channel, integrated end-to-end up to disruption and delivery and so on. So this is what we aim to deliver with new partnership model, and this is what we present today. As well, you will see that it's not as futuristic as it seems. John will present you concrete project we did, so with our airline partner. So we had 2 pilots implemented in production and integrated within the existing IT ecosystem. So let's start with the why. So why airlines are looking in new partnerships? So if I have to sum up and to make it short, I would say 2 things. So because we see that there are new needs, so Oana, you mentioned what is needed in the, let's say, to restart, and as well we see new options, new capabilities, new ways of doing things. So we are all familiar with existing Interlines. It's proven, it has served millions of passengers. However, it has some severe limitations. Partnership agreements are complex to define, complex to implement. The control on the offer is very limited, not that flexible. And all that is due because all the processes behind are semi-digitalized. What does it mean? It still that it's still heavily rely on P&L and ticket processes. So one very good illustration, it's within IATA global survey done last year, 2 passengers out of 5 do not know which airline to speak with when they have a problem. So it shows the gaps we have with customer experience on how you treat your passenger in an Interline situation. And as well, because Interline heavily relies on P&L tickets, it delivers a very low level of interoperability, meaning that between low-cost and full-service carrier or between an airline and another supplier, it simply doesn't work well. So in the past, we have seen various solutions which has been implemented, but we never really succeeded to deliver something satisfactory in terms of cost of deployment, cost of operate, and as well to deliver a good enough customer experience. This is really what we want to achieve with these new models. As well, we expect a lot of value, directly already, a value in terms of revenue stream, more interoperability, so meaning you can do more business quicker, as well more value in terms of doing partnership with another full service carrier, even though it works today, still in terms of optimization, there's still a lot of things that can be done. In terms of customer experience, so new solution bring less friction, better customer experience, better way to optimize as well your content. And the last point is cost. So going through retail processes means simplicity, cost efficiency, faster deployment, which ultimately reduce your costs and improve your revenues. So what I want to say in that is we clearly believe that we can bring and we can reach a lot of value in this new partnership. So what does it mean for us? In Amadeus, we are hosted all type of carriers, from network full service carrier up to ultra low cost. This is why we are giving a very important focus on increasing interoperability, how we can better manage interoperability between all those kind of carriers. So this is as well with challenges. We must enable interoperability, and today we have already some solution, but we need to respect what we call the business attributes. It has to stay very simple to implement so that we have low cost on board. We need to deliver a very good customer experience, good customer services. What happens is kind of disruption, how we handle passenger at airports, how we manage in all the channel changes, refunds, and so on. So these are the attributes that full service needs. As well, we need to respect ancillary strategy. So for some hybrid carriers, ancillary is a very important part of the revenue. So ancillary has to flow, has to be enabled to the solution. So the good news is the new concept, the new model, perfectly fit on purpose. And that's why we are focusing on, we want to deliver this new solution in a way which is integrated for all airlines, for all our channels. So now let's dive a bit more in the solution and explain what are the concepts which are behind the retailer-supplier interaction. So as I said, it is inspired from retail processes, meaning with a real-time conversation between all the partners. It's based on shop order pay flows. Each airline, and this is very important, should have the control on the offer, meaning that they receive a request, they can optimize the request, they can manage markup, discount, and whatever. So they have the control. It's enabled as well a superior customer experience in the sense that you have the capability to create homogeneous offer. So very important to have at the end of the day, if you are selling a full itinerary, you need to have consistency in terms of product you deliver, in terms of branding, in terms of attributes, product attributes that are delivered to your passenger. So this conversation real-time allows that. Seamless servicing is very important. Servicing is about the experience you have on the digital, the capability to distribute through your NDC channel, having servicing which can be done by both carrier at airport, either voluntary or within disruption environments. Single payments, single order ID, as well, are key elements of the solution. So you know, this part is really how we can better sell, how we can better optimize with the super customer experience. Then, second slide is still very important because we all know that after a passenger has clicked on the pay button, there are still a lot of things which can happen for this passenger. A lot of events in terms of disruption at airports. What's happened if the screw checking works, doesn't work? What about the bags? All those things. So this is basically the downstream application on what we want to deliver. Again, is to stick to the standard of the superior customer experience of the retail, delivering something which works, which is compatible with the existing system. So it's very important. It has to work with DCS. It has to work with revenue accounting for the settlement. It has to work with instruction flows. So this is the key element of the solution, what's happened behind. But as well as we are using order-based financial flows, so rather than PNR, tickets, outfile, and so on, we can drastically improve interoperabilities, meaning that ticketless stay ticketless. Ticketed airlines can keep a ticket if they need. So this new model basically enable to really further deploy this interoperability while we preserve the business model of each participant. So as you see, it's very important, the new solutions that we are planning to deliver, driven by the standard retail principle. We need to make simple. We need to get inspiration from the best practice of the retails. We don't want to hide the complexity. We need to rethink the process, rethink the way we do things. We believe it will bring value in the interoperability, obviously, between ticketless carrier and ticket, but as well between two full service carriers. There is still a lot of gain compared to the current Interline. So this is really our objective. So now I'd like to give the floor to John. John will give you a bit more perspective on the low cost. So what are the low cost looking for? And as well, he will present you what we've done concretely with other airline partners in that case.
Thank you, Stefan. Thanks. My name is John Coates, and I am the product leader at Navitaire for distribution and NDC. Given that very few of the Navitaire carriers are members of IATA, I thought I'd take a few moments to explain a little bit about Navitaire and the carriers that we host. New Skies, which is the Navitaire reservation system, is a digital e-commerce platform that was built using the same ticketless principles as One Order. And what this means is a single record is used to manage both the offer and the order throughout the passenger's life cycle. Navitaire hosts 55 low-cost, ultra-low-cost, and hybrid carriers. And what all of these carriers have in common is that they try to avoid complexity whenever possible. By doing so, it allows them to achieve and maintain the lowest possible operating cost, which is very, very important to all carriers, but in particular to low-cost carriers. Now, of the Navitaire carriers, especially the hybrid carriers, many of them do support Interline and codeshare today, and they do that by supporting e-tickets. But to do that, it requires the Navitaire carrier to take on additional cost and complexity to interact with a network carrier who uses e-tickets. And this may prevent them from, for some carriers, it will prevent them from actually entering into Interline agreements, and others, it'll prevent them from fully embracing Interline. So that leads into, what are low-cost carriers looking for when we think about new partnerships? And basically, the number one ask and desire is that they be able to enter into these relationships without compromising or changing their business model, without introducing additional complexity and incurring additional cost. They're very intrigued by NDC concepts and one order concepts. They like the idea of having control over their offer, that they control the price and the schedule for that matter. Ancillaries are incredibly important to low-cost carriers. So whether it's in their direct channel or their indirect channel, interacting with other airlines, they want to be able to cross-sell all sorts of ancillaries, whether it's seat fees, a la carte ancillaries such as baggage fees and bundles. A growing trend, especially for low-cost carriers, is dynamic pricing, especially around ancillaries. They want to be able to support this concept of implementing and supporting dynamic pricing for ancillaries in particular, but airfare eventually in the indirect channel, including Interline. And last, but certainly not least, they want a integrated solution. They want full view of the order. They want a single record. They want a single payment that is collected from the customer, and they want to be able to service the order within their own system without having to reach out to other systems, but able to rebook passengers or adjust bookings as needed. So let's go on to the next slide, please. And let's talk about the two pilots that Amadeus and Navitaire were involved with earlier this year. First, let's talk about Singapore and Scoot. The use case they chose was to prove out that NDC messages and one order messages could be used to enable interoperability between a full service carrier and a low cost carrier, end to end. And they have the industry first distinction of supporting this, actually demonstrating in production that it is possible to support or have Interline using NDC and one order. Shop, order, deliver, and settle. The team was comprised of 5 different companies. So obviously Singapore as the retailer in the equation, Scoot as the supplier, but then IT providers being Amadeus, Navitaire, and the Accounting Center of China Aviation, which handles revenue accounting for the Singapore group. The solution was developed in 5 months and was in production with live customers, real flights for 2 months, and they achieved what they set out to. They proved that it could be done. They were able to have zero impact in the airport environment, meaning through check-in could occur for boarding passes, through check-in for baggage, business continuity. They also, another desire is, or as an outcome for this pilot, was that they wanted to identify changes that may be needed in the schema to further enhance the interoperability. And I believe Singapore has logged, I think, approximately 5 or 6 change requests with IATA based on their lessons learned from their pilot. They consider it to be very successful and are contemplating next steps in the same arena. Let's move over to British Airways and Vueling, 2 carriers within the IAG group, also participated in a pilot. They looked at a number of different use cases and decided to focus in on a use case that solved a true problem, a concrete problem in production today, and that is disruption, which is a challenge for all carriers. And just a very quick background as to what the situation they find themselves in is that when Vueling, as the operating carrier, would have a flight disruption, the New Sky system that Vueling uses can rebook an entire flight very quickly, very efficiently on the best available alternative in the Vueling environment. Now, for a British Airways marketing codeshare passenger traveling on Vueling, the best alternative flight may not be a Vueling flight. It may be a British Airways service. And so they decided to focus in on the pilot to be able to identify those passengers and provide a new tool to their agents to utilize to rebook these passengers, high value customer codeshare passengers. In this case, there was 4 members. You had participants. We had British Airways, Vueling, Amadeus, and Navitaire. The solution was developed in 3 months, put into production, and actually, given the feedback and their satisfaction with the outcome, they have decided to leave it into production, which stretches the concept of a pilot a bit, but it does add value to the IAG group. And basically what this is doing, it's providing Vueling agents this new tool. So what happens is let's say a Vueling flight is disrupted, it cancels for whatever reason. New Skies invokes reaccommodation. All passengers are reaccommodated to the best available, first available option within the Vueling environment. The application in the background identifies British Airways marketing codeshare passengers, then queues those up, and for a Vueling agent in a back office environment can go through the queue and look at the flights or look at the orders. Could be that the Vueling alternate flight is the best available, but it could be there is a British Airways service that provides a better service recovery option for the customers. And then using a very simple 3-step process, very quick process, they can reaccommodate the passenger onto BA. Again, this provides a new tool to the Vueling agent. It's invoking the NDC order reshop in the message in the background. And once the flight's been selected, and then within the Amadeus environment, the ticket is being reissued as an invol reissue, and the customers are notified of their new protected flight. Again, this provides a new tool. It streamlines the process for reaccommodation for Vueling. In the past, they used manual processes to accommodate codeshare reaccommodation. And also this avoids the need for Vueling to have to reissue OAL validated e-tickets. So again, in both cases, the proofs of concepts, the pilots were able to prove that there is value here, that the messages can be fit for purpose. There's additional work that is needed, but the feedback has been very positive, and we continue to move forward in this area. Both Amadeus and Navitaire see the value and are moving forward. So Stefan, if we go to the next slide, please. This slide, a lot of moving pieces here, but shows the progression over time of both Amadeus and Navitaire. Both companies have been involved with NDC and One Order since the very beginning. Both companies see value in industry standards and creating a different way, a new simplified way to approach the interline approach or interline equation. And we believe in it. Our customers see the value in this, as we've seen with the 2 pilots that we've experienced, and both companies are investing in this as we see this as the way forward. And with that, I will turn it back to Stefan.
Thanks, John. So before the conclusion, I like to extend a bit the perspectives beyond partnership. So beyond partnership, often we refer to implementation of offer on order management system. But what does it mean? So delivering an offer and order management system is applying this retail transformation to the entire business domain of the airlines. So it starts really with the simplification of the business processes, so the famous retail-inspired processes. So there is many things which can be simplified at airlines. For sure, there are some processes which has to remain. Those are airline specific, it creates values, but most of the processes of an airline can be transformed, simplified in a way which is streamlined. This is what we believe in this retail transformation. Offer and order are key concepts which are the key enablers. So that's the simplicity, that's the way to standardize, to offering a superior customer experience from the sales perspective, the sales channels, the digital, the NDC, up to the airport activity, distribution activity, and so on, so on, so on. So this is really the core of what we can implement. A very important aspect of the transformation as well is airlines willing to sell more content. Obviously, partnership is a key enabler, and we spent the presentation to show how we can better do partnership with more partner, more content, offering richer, dynamic, more personalized, but it's applied to the entire story of the airlines. As well, in terms of adoption, so this is very important. It sounds like a very big transformation because it's a very big transformation for the airlines, not only IT, but as well in terms of processes, in terms of organization. But what we believe in Amadeus is we can go with a progressive adoption. Progressive adoption means exactly like John was explaining. We have some pilots, we do productions, we deliver a use case, it brings value, we keep it. So we don't believe in big bang. We believe that we can go with a step-by-step approach. We can deliver some value, some use cases in terms of partnership to sell more, in terms of the disruption to increase the airport experience and the customer experience. So all those aspects can be bring with a step-by-step approach. So having this step-by-step approach means that we need to go with hybrid implementation. We don't want to change the entire system from one shot. So the order and offer world has to coexist with the PSS, has to coexist with all the downstream application. This is what we refer with hybrid implementation to ensure that we can deliver a seamless transition. So we don't spend too much time on that, but it's just to give a perspective that partnership is very important. It's part of the retail transformation, but there is much more to come aligned with those very important principles. So as a conclusion, what are the insights we want to share with you on what is the path forward? So the first point is we are strong believer on new partnership. So we believe it will bring a lot of values because it solves concrete problems. So for ticket as carrier, with a better interoperabilities, but not only, because it's allows as well to have a better optimization, a better customer service. Between Navitaire and Amadeus, we have the right expertise, so we have the combined knowledge of all those four, so we can ensure it works for all the airlines in a way which is optimal, and we are actively investing. So we're investing in sales processes to ensure we can sell more. We're investing as well in downstream application. Disruption with Richard is a very good example, with concrete elements. We are doing pilots, we implement stuff, we learn, because it's very important basically to understand what it means to go to the retail, what is the experience we want to target, and we'll continue to develop a richer solution for scale deployment. So hope you enjoy, and I think it's time for Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan and John. Very, very interesting presentation. And we do have a couple of questions already for you from the attendees. So let me start with the first ones more specific to the pilot. The first one is more looking into the Singapore SQ pilot. So you are combining I would say a full service carrier fares with a low cost carrier who doesn't have fare today. So can you expand a little bit more on how are you creating this total offer that is going to be put on front of the customer?
In this case, the application shopped both Singapore and Scoot Airlines and received offers or fares and brought that back and combined it into a end-to-end offer. For the pilot, some of sector fares or fare construction was used, but it's envisioned obviously moving forward, we would introduce concept as a governing fare, or the ability to combine fares and add a surcharge or to apply a discount or have a through fare.
Okay.
Yeah. Just to complement, because it's a very important one. On the sometimes we refer with this concept of offer homogeneity. Today, when we combine fare into a typical, we have some struggle in terms of delivering the right experience end to end. With this real-time conversation, with the mechanism we put in place, we can ensure we have an homogeneous offer end to end that will be delivered to the customer. So I think that's a very important way to move forward.
And still on the Singapore SQ pilot, the question is which version of the NDC schema you have used?
18.1.
Okay, very clear. The next question is more related to the Vueling British Airways. And can you be a bit more specific? What was the type of disruption? Schedule change or a day of disruption?
Day of disruption. So a cancellation, day of disruption.
Okay, the next question is, so it's very clear that the carriers that you have been doing pilots with were Amadeus and New Sky PSS, but the question is, can other airlines leverage and use what you have presented? And if yes, also do the other partners need to be hosted in your system, or they can be hosted in another system?
Stefan, I'll start and then I'll let you build upon my comments. From a Navitaire perspective, we see two primary use cases initially. Navitaire to Navitaire is an obvious application, but obviously at the same time, we're working with Amadeus. So Navitaire to Amadeus. Beyond that, yes, we envision that it would be for any IT provider, airline on any system would be able to participate. So Stefan, I'll let you weigh in as well.
Yeah, if I can complement, what we're trying to achieve is to define what is the new partnership models. So that's why we are working a lot with industry, with IATA, because what we want to define is the standards which enable interoperability within all carriers. Obviously, when we did some pilots, we started with our seat carrier. It was Amadeus Altéa with the New Sky carrier. Probably we do the same between some Altéa carrier and other ones. But the point, it has to be something standard because it's related to interoperability in pure IT terms. So at one point, we propose some IT capability to non-seat carrier. That's a possibility. I think what we're trying to achieve in Amadeus is to have a platform with a modular approach, meaning that we should be able to deliver some component on top of other PSS at one point. That's clearly part of our vision. But again, what we focus here is to ensure that we define the right way. I think we need to do it with a new mindset, which is a retail mindset, which is a bit different from what we used to have a few years ago. We need to create things which are simple to implement, or can be deployed on all airlines. That's a bit our objectives.
Very clear. The next one is very simple. What about ancillaries? Were they included in the scope or not?
No, the ancillaries were not included in the scope for either pilot. It was flight focused, but everyone agrees that that is the next step, and I would anticipate the next wave of pilots would include ancillaries.
The next question is, because you've mentioned, well, in your presentations a couple of times, like NDC and relying on NDC. So maybe it would be good to be clear, does all the carriers that would like to use this type of partnerships that you have presented and piloted need to be an NDC compliant, or you're more leveraging on the offer and order concepts?
I can start on John.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I think what is important is more the concept than the message. The concept behind is the concept of shop order pay, offer order management, real-time conversation between partner, which is the retailer supplier. At the end of the day, yes, we are changing messages. The right message in those flows were the NDC messages that are using 18.1. But what's really important here is to set up the flows on the principle behind. On the message, NDC is an enabler in that situation.
And my comment would be that from a low-cost carrier perspective, it's about the ticketing aspect. What is really appealing to the Navitaire carriers and low-cost carriers in general who are ticketless is, whether it's NDC or just modern retailing, is not to have a ticket. If you need a ticket, you have a ticket within your own environment, but you move away from the industry concept that there is an IET that's issued for the entire journey. Breaking that paradigm will take us away, will move the industry forward in terms of new partnerships.
Very clear. The next question is related to payment, and it's very straightforward. Was it one payment done, or has it been two separate payments to each of the carrier?
So let's take the Singapore Scoot example. One payment was collected by Singapore as the retailer, the offer responsible airline. Then in the background, there was settlement between Scoot and Singapore. So essentially Scoot was able to bill or invoice Singapore for the value of the transportation they provided. Now, what was also interesting, just a quick comment, what was interesting about this is one of the ideas and concepts that Singapore wanted to prove out was the idea of upfront settlement values, so that the fare that Scoot provided to Singapore for the creation of the Interline offer was the agreed upon settlement amount. So they wanted to prove out that the settlement with orders, that concept could be utilized.
I have one last question, more related to the implementation, and actually there are two small ones into a big one. It's what about the channels in which this can be implemented, meaning is it something that can be accessible on the airline.com? And then what about the length of implementation? I think you've mentioned something around 5 months. Is it usually the time that it takes to implement that? Is it something standard, or is it something that can differ depending on the carrier?
I think there's a lot of variables there. The Singapore Scoot, the solution was developed in 5 months. For Vueling and British Airways, it was 3 months. For Singapore Scoot, it was in production for 2 months. For Vueling and British Airways, it remains in production. I think as we learn more, as we develop more, as the schemas evolve, the implementation time will be reduced.
Yeah, I think that plays objective on that. True, today we are implementing new solution based on new principle. That's why we have those timeline, I would say, which are quite short still, if we put that in perspective. However, the objective of the retail, when it's in place, is to have something which is very fast. When all airlines are aligned with the flows, with the concept behind, it should be something very quick, because the objective of retail is to be able to test. You have a new partnership, you set it, you remove it, you adjust it. We need to gain this velocity and this time to market. We believe that compared to the current situation, manipulating TTY, DFAC, setting fares in atypical, setting up some internal agreements, it has to be no comparison. So what we want to achieve is a very, very good time to market when solution is fully deployed. Maybe on the other aspects, you have the multi-channel. Again, very important as part of the experience you want to give. The solutions that we are putting in place are multi-channel, meaning that indeed you need to be able to sell those new itineraries on your .com. That's a must, and you need to do it in a way which is integrated. So we don't want to have different flows, different pages. It has to be your main pages. It's the same for NDC distribution. So by definition, this is compatible with NDC, obviously, because this is a native principle of NDC, so that you can reach indirect distribution. So the multi-channel approach is very important, as what happened after, meaning airport disruption servicing, all point of sales, the call center of Navitaire, the call center of Amadeus Airlines, airports has to be able to play, to service, to manage. So it's really a multi-channel and omni-channel approach as well, targeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm very conscious of the time. We still have a couple of presentations ahead. So thank you very much.